So, let's get started. Let's get right into the topic today. So, thanks for coming to another Black Ops Roundtable. Thank you for all the participants once again. We see some familiar faces, but also some new ones. Oh, sorry guys, we've got a little bit of a bug here. The slides, 1 second. Let me just fix that. Okay, there we go. So, we'd like you to first meet the Black Ops Management Solutions team. My name is Evan. I work with Lynn in helping him with his media and content strategy, and also I'm presenting here today. Lynn, can you introduce yourself?
Good morning and good morning, everyone. We are recording, so I'm going to really inform who I am for the team. I'm Lynn Campbell, President and CEO of Black Ops Management Solutions. We have over 15 years in healthcare operations and business consulting. We definitely help dental and small businesses across the United States. We help those owners actually streamline their operations, boost profitability, and scale strategically. We do use our own signature four-step approach, which is really we go in, we analyze, then we build, grow, and then we monetize, of course, from that by delivering tailored solutions that will turn those operational challenges into growth opportunities. And with that, we've got two great support teams. They're both our strategic coaches on the team. Kevin, I'll pitch it over to you for an introduction.
Sure thing. I'm Kevin Vallejo. I'm one of our strategic business coaches and executive business coaches, working with leadership teams, often within dental and small business as well, systems, processes, team alignment, trying to help you and business owners grow their team efficiently and sustainably as well. And then I'll pass it over to Lori.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm Lori Wood-Bryson. I've been in healthcare for, gosh, longer than I want to admit, but about 38 years. I've been high performance coach, executive coach, and scaling businesses for about the last 25. I kind of focused in dental for about 30 years and then branched out to other healthcare industries. And it's everything from boots on the ground to scaling to $100 million company. So all the gaps in between is really the focus that we kind of glue the dots together, I guess, as a team. So I guess that's my big intro.
Thank you, Lori.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Kevin. Evan, back to you.
Thank you. So, today's topic, which is an absolute fantastic one, we touched on it briefly on the previous roundtable, but we really want to dive deep into it because it's such a big thing to discuss right now. And it's why your company keeps losing talent and the generational gap being the main culprit for it. So Lynn, do you want to just kind of tee up what are the main generations that we work with in the workforce today?
Yeah, and I appreciate it. To be very fair, and Evan will go through these generations with us, but as we're working with our clients, both in the dental and small business, we really have four generations out there that is typically made up in our practices today. We've got the boomers, we've got the Gen X, we have the millennials, we have the Gen Z. So out of those four different generations, it's typically boomer, early Gen X, that is the doctor owner or the business owner of their businesses. So what we're finding is there's misalignments in values, there's misalignments in expectations, there's misalignments in basically the overall work styles of expectations. So specifically what we're seeing in the healthcare and small business is turnover. It's rising fast, if you would. So that's our common. We're constantly being called, can you help me? I've got turnover and I've held this person for several years, or I just hired and now it's 6 months and they're leaving us. And so that's truly been the challenge. And that brings us really to today's topic. The root cause of the challenge is this generational gap and how to address. And so with that, Evan, if you would walk us through the different generations, because some of us are learning we might be a generation that we didn't know when we start to look at the years that we were born and the years that we're living in.
Fantastic. Yeah, so as you can see, guys, from the graph, so we've got pre-1946, which is the silent generation. We then got the baby boomers, which are 1946 to 1964, Gen X, 1965 to 1980, millennials, which I belong to, 1981 to 1996, Gen Z, 1997 to 2012, and then post to 2012, we got Gen Alpha. So this just kind of like frames the different ones that we're working with. And as Lynn said, there's only really 4 that are really relevant to this conversation. Okay, so our first question, which we want to discuss, and we want to open this up to everyone on the call. How many generations are represented on your team? And where do you notice the biggest disconnect?
And
So,
Evan, if we
Lynn.
can, let's drop back slides so the team, the ones on the call at the round table here can actually see again those generations. And if you would just come off mute, we're actually just going to allow some dialogue here and have those conversations. Where does the team sit?
So here's the question, guys. Where's the biggest disconnect between the generations?
Yeah, I mean,
Near the generations.
I know our team is really made up of, I mean, our team is about 8 people currently. So we are, Charmin and I are, of course, I'm not gonna pretend to know Charmin's age, so I might back up a little bit there before I get in trouble. But I would say
There's many years there, so we're pretty good. We're many
yeah.
years.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean we cover from I would say Gen X to Gen Z. So our organization is made up of a few in the baby boomer section and then the rest of well, I take that back. We've got Gen X, we've got Gen Z, no millennials in our organization that I know of, but so we've got a little bit across the board. Baby boomers at the top and Gen Z at the top and some Gen Z kind of entry level as well. Um, I I mean really from my perspective, it's really the Gen Z helping to pull me along, quite honestly, as a Gen X. Into the technology. Everybody that I know that's in Gen Z is super uses AI to a degree um, that boggles my mind. If I have any issues with um, and really want to use AI as a tool, that's my first phone call. I'm either calling my daughter or I'm calling another team member on my team that's in that demographic. So yeah, I mean that's really, I mean, I'm really tapping their shoulders because they're immersed in it. It's easy for them. It's a tool that just comes natural for them. It's a tool that doesn't come natural for a baby boomer, Gen X, or maybe even not a millennial. So yeah, when it comes to really the disconnect, that's where it's not really a disconnect. It's really looking at whose strengths on our team, and then the strength of the Gen Z, and even the Gen Alpha, and probably some of the millennials is that they are really more immersed in all of the tools, especially the AI tools out there.
Sean, thank you for sharing that. And now you've explained why it really matters to recognize the individual. As you kind of mentioned the Gen Z, they're tech savvy, right? They understand all of the technology where baby boomer Gen X and some of us are sitting right there on those two lines. We're kind of independent. We're going to focus on and try to get to the answers, and we get frustrated if we don't realize that we can lean on someone else. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else on the round table here like to kind of share what's going on or the biggest disconnect or recognizing your generations?
I will. I surveyed my team. I've got 3 generations, so I've got X, millennials, and Zs. I think Z's comments most often are they want life work balance. That means an equal measure inside and outside of work. So they want um, they believe that professionalism has diminished in their generation, where the next generation is more professional. They, I guess, ultimately, they're easily distractible. So, because there's so much technology that they're used to using, that staying focused in the job, what I've noticed and what has been effective thus far is that number one, we start with a coaching meeting every morning, and they have directives by department that they have to accomplish. They actually have to fill out a checklist every day. I know this sounds like archaic, but what I noticed is it's starting to build a pattern that we're looking for in the workplace of start to finish. There's not a distraction. You're literally scheduled out, and then we're building that into the technology. So ultimately, every step will be that checklist. They don't have to keep it in their brain. But ultimately, I think the difference I see, and what I got comments from millennials is we're faster to pivot. We're not going to sit there and wait like Gen X for technology to show up at our door. We're going to take the technology and make it work for us, and we're not going to work harder if there's something better out there that we can use. Gen Z's comments are, yeah, to me, this is my summary. They've never been taught the long game. The long game is relationships and careers. Everything is instantaneous. And so they don't have that example or that environment built into kind of the culture that they were raised in. And so trying to help them with that is our responsibility, I think, as Gen X, because we created it. And ultimately, this is what my surgeon had to say. He's an Xer, a young X though. He said, I was taught to work my ass off and don't complain. Gen Zs now want to complain and work as least as possible at working their ass off. And I just laugh because I think it's just a reverse commentary of what, you know what I mean? The language is different, but the sentiment is about the same. And so I thought that was good input.
And Lori, thank you, because that's exactly you're helping your doctor owner understand exactly these generations and what's going on, and he's able to relate that right back. I think we have time for one more commentary in this section, and I know Evan, you're going to be moving us forward. So anyone, one more person like to join and have some insight?
I'm
Yeah,
happy to
I
add
can.
just please, please.
Yeah, so I agree with Lori. I'm a Gen Xer, 77 born. And with these newer generations of millennials and Gen Zs, you're right, they don't know the long game. I have a Gen Z on staff, and I was just talking to him, and he's said he has no expectation to ever own a home. So he loves the idea of keeping his roots shallow. I agree with Lori. Like, I literally have to meet with my younger employees every single week to give them marching orders for that week. Like, what are we going to accomplish this week to make this week a win? And I'm from the Gen X side where I have been the long game, and I was, family oriented before I got married and expected that I was going to have kids and I was going to have a mortgage and I was going to do all of these things, but I also, as it says there, super independent. So I'm not a micromanager, and I'm of the mind that it's like, give me a problem and I'll come up with a solution, but don't tell me how to do it. Where I'm seeing with millennials and Gen Zs, especially, that short-term gratification, getting little wins each week is enough for them rather than kind of swinging for the fences. So it's just a little bit different. Strategy working with millennials and Gen Zs for sure. And they are more tech savvy, but honestly, tech savvy doesn't mean more productive and giving, direction for them, because it seems like their attention is very, very short term. You know, Somebody mentioned equal work-life balance. I think you said that, Lori, where not working is as important, if not more important, and they want to make enough money to have the lifestyle that they want, which is relatively simple. It's very, most of our company though is primarily baby boomers. What we find with the baby boomers, they're not real productive. They're more the people that are concept designers, and they talk a lot. And but when it comes down to handing out who's going to execute on these things, I'm seeing less and less of that on the baby boomer side, and more of that really kind of sit in the Gen X millennial, and then Gen Z is kind of like still figuring that one out, but they're relatively young. And this has been super wildly helpful, because I've just been nodding my head this whole time as everybody's been talking, like, yes, Lori, that's it. Yeah, I agree with you. So for what it's worth, that's my opinion on it as well.
Grant, thank you for sharing. And I think moving forward, we have to redefine our leadership styles because we've got to recognize the generations, and more importantly, within our work environment, we've got the generations that we have to adapt our leadership styles to the different generations, right? And modernize our communications. Again, we're going to now be, especially if we're Boomer Gen X, our alphas and our Gen Zs are going to validate us, right? They're not going to listen to us and say, well, they're right. They're going to very quick to there. So if we can, Evan, slide us forward. And Lori, if you would, walk us through some of the leadership changes and things. I think we have, yes, go ahead with the question there for sure.
So
I
how
think,
has sorry, Laura, I'll just tip the question. So how has your leadership style changed over time, and how have communication gaps shown up across the generations? Please, Laurie, go ahead.
it's funny. I think there's some universal truth, even though we have different experiences, at least for myself as a Gen X, because I grew up without technology and, learning to wash a car and push a broom and clean a house and whatever, you know, paper route or whatever. But I think that most people in leadership that I'm noticing and what is missing is people don't have a compelling future. They are overwhelmed by trauma and what they see in the media and what they see in politics. And when you look at millennials or even Gen Zs, look at how many tragedies they've been exposed to since they've been of waking age and using technology. It's, what is it? 50 to 1, a negative story to a good story. And just think of the impact on somebody psychologically versus we grew up of, waiting for the streetlight to come on because we knew we had to ride our bike home before dark. I mean, that was literally our life. And so I think in leadership, the one thing that I think connecting the dots is really creating a vision and clarity for the vision and what success looks like. And success is it's multifaceted, right? It's not just what you do in your work, it's what you do in your life. And if you do it universally, you end up in a better place. And so anything that I do in leadership, it's a habit that I'm looking to establish for someone so that they have a better life. Because if it makes their life better, they'll listen and they'll work harder for me. I can leverage that more. The one thing I have learned with the younger generation is they believe that the grass is greener, that they'll just keep leaving and they'll find the next thing. And again, get the lesson or repeat the class. So, like I said, I'm building technology around this and checklists and compliance. But ultimately, what my ultimate goal is you earn yourself, your spot on this team. And you don't get to stay on the team if you don't earn it every day. It's transactional in that you get paid every day, you do the job every day to the highest ability, but to the highest good as well. And I think that people want something that inspires them to be purposeful. And I think that in leadership, it's really important to give absolute inspiration, clarity, and vision with data and compliance and hold people to that in a way that's, you don't have to be mad about it. The data tells the story and people determine their success based on their habits. And I think you keep it simple. And if you're the best deal in town, I mean, you offer the best benefits, the best culture, and I end up paying the most money, it's cheaper in the long run for me. That's my find.
And Lori, I'll add to this, and Evan, teeing up the team, because it would be nice if we can get one or two to kind of share what's going on. But what we're discovering as well is recognizing how to best communicate, because we were talking about kind of modernizing our communication styles as well. And Grant, you alluded to this, but it is a tradition that in the day we opened up a dental office, we had all of these training manuals, books after books. I mean, huge manuals, right? We built cabinets to put all of these manuals in. A person comes in, it might take them the first 3 or 4 days just to start memorizing these manuals. That was just the way, even from a Gen X, that was the way that we were taught, right? You learn the manual, you learn the book. But today, as we're looking at the audience, are we communicating via Zoom, just as we're doing right here? Are we communicating via Slack or text groups? And so our communication has moved away from the old manual and has become, I want to learn, but I want to learn very quick because I'm accustomed to TikTok or YouTube. So you got my attention maybe 20 minutes and I've lost you then. And then it's how to keep everyone energized. So it's for most of us on this call, we're having to change what was very comfortable for us, where we feel it's the old school textbook, to more that face-to-face is not, I'm not saying please don't lose your face-to-face. There's points made for that, but it's communicating morning huddles, end of days, check-ins, group text, Slack, communication. That's just what our teams are used to. So I'm just giving you some of those flexibilities that are there. And then again, I would say kind of a command and control sort of method was in place with those manuals. And now it's more coaching and collaboration because, there is technology to verify what you're telling me, doctor owner, that might have worked back in 1984 or 1996, but today that has changed. And they'll be quick to show us technology wise. So I hope that gave some time. Let's take a question if we can, or somebody give us what's going on specifically across how are you closing the gaps, if you would, in your practice or in your business?
I can share on that again. Lori and I are taking the stage today, it sounds like.
Go for it.
So what we've been doing, excuse me, at Health Professionals Alliance is you talk about these manuals, and with this new generation, as I get older, they're going to continue to come into the workforce. And so to preserve the company, what we've been doing is actually taking those quote unquote manuals that we've been so used to and the SOPs and everything off the bookshelf and putting it into AI. So basically building an AI brain, an AI bot because the thing that I'm looking at is we work with dental practices to help them save money and grow, but we use navigators to do that. So if we're dealing with generations that are going to change jobs a lot faster and maybe be hot and heavy for 6 months or a year, and then something new comes along and they're like, I want to do this instead. One of the things that we've been doing in preparation for this younger generation is how do we, instead of having somebody work 6 to 12 months and then leave, and then we got to train somebody completely again. We've actually been pumping all of the knowledge base that we have into artificial intelligence to create an AI bot that can serve our customers and train new navigators in our company to basically not have a lapse in time when we see this turnover. So it used to be baby boomers were like one job and they were career people and they worked for General Electric their whole career and they never changed jobs. Certainly Gen Xers, we've changed jobs more often, but I see with this younger generation, they're looking for the next thing and they may change jobs every 2 to 5 years. And so with our company, it's like, how do we create consistency? We've been kind of forced to look at AI to build that database of knowledge so that no matter who comes in or goes out, we continue to stack on a timeless piece of technology that can serve our customers and train new employees with turnover. So that's one strategy we've been working with to basically protect ourselves a little bit, which I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but it's what we've decided to do. So the manual
Grant, thank
thing
you for
really
sharing that because it's important, and kind of sharing that it's and I'm giving time here for someone else to pitch in as well. But I did share this a couple of weeks ago with the team as we were starting to really dig deep here. My background, I have 17 years in traditional old school retail back in the day when malls were, the happening place. And it's ironic that today our communication style and our training style has become more similar to, let's just say, at that time, how the limited corporation or the Gap Corporation was actually training. And that was having communication playbooks, right? It's almost like a magazine in a sense, but it's communication playbooks to get the attention. And Grant, you say it best, AI builds that, but then how do you keep it more automated and engaged? The annual reviews in retail, we really did not have those. You had more of a monthly coaching check-in. Every 6 weeks, it was kind of required that everyone had a little check-in. It was that constant engagement, that constant exposure of how am I doing? Am I on track? Do I have an opportunity to grow? Do I have an opportunity to take another position? As an example, and that's very similar to where we are seeing today. So with that said, do we have anyone else that would like to give us some insight of what's going on in your practice or your business?
Well, I have a comment and it's more on a personal note, but I have a son who is Gen Z. And one of the things that I really noticed with him, and I think it kind of plays out for companies generally, is that he wants there to be a lot of high tech. in his job, and he gets very frustrated. If it's very, manual, old school, he doesn't like it, and he doesn't. So part of this process of, creating a chat bot that's got sort of the company culture and company wisdom in it is that it is more engaging, and it's sort of speaking the language of Gen Z. And I think that in of itself ends up being a retention tool, just because they feel sort of understood. They feel like, they're being approached in the way that they want to be. And that's a big part of their generation.
Jackie, I appreciate that. And you're exactly right. That kind of leads us, aligning purpose, customizing. And Laura, you made mention of this and giving you an opportunity maybe to deep dive here. Our benefits, customizing benefits and career paths, because today's audience, if you would, today's employee or team member is not looking for the same as we may be. And when I say that we, if I'm a Gen Xer sort of scenario, my desire for benefits were different. Grant, you made mention there are many today. I don't have a desire to buy a home today. That's not what I have a different vision. I'm really working to live versus living to work in a scenario. So, Lori, walk us through some of those insights, if you would, on how to aligning purpose or customizing our benefits or career paths and having those dialogues.
So I'll make a comment first too about the AI, and I know I've mentioned this before. We're in step 3 of building out an AI for all industries, which I think is interesting. Right now, we have a bot we have 2 things. We have an avatar that gives consultations virtually with one of the surgeons that I work with, and it is any procedure that he does head to toe. It's in 144 different languages, and it can give an estimate, it can book in a consult, and take a payment. So that's happening. On the other side, I have an AR avatar that is taking care of all incoming flow and directing and recording all interactions with people once it connects them to the right party. And then the third piece we just worked on this week is interesting. We've taken every step in what we call value chain of our business, and we are overlaying it with AI that does not allow anybody to move forward until that step is completed. And where I think that gives peace of mind to Gen Zs is because their focus is so diffuse, it gives them the answers to the test. They literally cannot fail. However, the interaction with the client or the patient is so critical. It's so important that AI is built with empathy, with caring, with nurturing, and with a loving experience. And it is trainable, but if we don't include that, it's just annoying to people. So that's for starters. To get back to your question about benefits and alignment, and this is what I've found. We offer every benefit available would be in the package that you would consider a benefit. So it's medical, it's dental, it's vision, it's mental health, it's telehealth. We offer all the perks, and right now I'm in aesthetics, so every perk of plastic surgery and aesthetics, a 401k, a bonus system, commissions, a lot of industry perks, because we have a lot of industry that support parties and outings and things like that. And people want, again, that's part of the play hard, work hard. But what I also notice in those things is people get spoiled really fast. And so that's what's really important in holding people accountable to, and one of the things, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but one of the things is I asked my team is what makes a great leader? And they said, well, you're energetic and you're happy and you listen and you don't micromanage and you hold us accountable. So everything's great right up until we get to the accountability part, right? And it's funny, but they also agreed if they did their job or they didn't do everything on their checklist every day and they collected their paycheck, their words was that's stealing. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to use your words. So it's really important because a lot of younger generations have been given a lot of things, instant gratification, where a lot of us had to earn those things over a longer period of time. And I left out PTO and all the other, we all know that that's standard as well, or at least it is here. And so I guess, again, coupling the equal measure of results with accountability, that's the pinpoint. Now, yeah, and this is my language for me, can I dummy proof the system? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Because in healthcare, we can't make mistakes. But for people, what makes them better, and you talk about people not wanting to buy a home and these different things, I don't even know that they believe they can. they've really lost belief. There's very few people that are still engaged at that level. I mean, they want to get rich fast or quick. I mean, I just had an OnlyFans patient here 15 minutes ago driving a Lamborghini that made $13 million in 2 years. So, I mean, that's what they see. So the day-to-day 9 to 5 doesn't feel like they can have the things that we've accomplished, as you know, and they're not wrong. You know, the what it costs to live and to do those things now is so much exponentially different, right? 20 times more or something than it was in the past. So do I bridge the gap with every opportunity to make it the best offer? I do, but it's the accountability piece that I think ultimately you weed out the people that didn't want to work in the first place. There's a lot of good people, and I believe in the younger generation. They're smart. And so they'll figure it out.
And Lori,
But
I
it's like the
appreciate that. I appreciate that, and to share where you're coming from. You know, if we're looking back at the generations and we're thinking specifically millennials and Gen Z, let's think of those two specifically, those two generations. You know, they're ultimately seeking meaningful work, as that's their desire, meaningful work, but they need to see the visual impact. So how am I impacting this business? And so getting them to be, you know, they have to feel that it is meaningful, and specifically in the dental, they're there for a reason, but then they have to see the visual impact. My job is getting me this, or this opportunity is taking me to a certain place. And you made mention of the benefits. You know, the benefits have been a hot topic, and we don't really have a HR representative on this particular call today that's specific in the benefit package, but we are seeing that we have to meet the generational needs because benefits mean different in the generation. So retirement for some back in the day was important, but now it might be more flexibility or growth. And flexibility, the younger the generation, the more flexibility they're looking for. So I'm even if I'm looking at an associate doctor, right? I'm wanting to work 3.5 days a week versus the 5 days a week or the 40 hours. Or if I'm a front desk, I might only be wanting to work 32 hours a week versus 40. Or even a salesperson, they might only be working from up until 3, say 10 to 3, because they have children and the like. So the younger generation is looking more at that flexibility. We're also looking for growth, but they need to see it tangibly, not just talk about it. I need to see if I achieve X, that gets me into this next position or this growth opportunity. And so that takes me to that career growth, right? It has to be tangible, not implied. And so, to kind of taking Glory to where you were, that's exactly what we're seeing from our input from exit interviews and the like. I go ahead, Evan. I know you have got the question there. We can kind of move forward to further conversation here.
Absolutely, thank you. And we did kind of touch upon this before, but how can mentorship or learning exchanges reduce generational friction on your team? I think, Lynn, you have some more specific examples of how you can use it.
Yeah, and to give some examples, and we've seen success because turnover is happening, and it's high turnover. But and I'm going to speak specifically to dentists, right? Dentists or in the medical space, as Lori's making mention, really looking at different types of benefits for that generation. It may be a student loan repayment. That's what is attractive, and you're really looking at retention bonuses versus bonuses of just come in, I'm going to pay you $250 if you'll start next week. It's more of a retention and more attractive retention. But the student loan repayment has been really strong. And then, hygienist, we're just going to take that. Hygienist is a real challenge, but we're finding that we can retain more of the senior hygienist. It will offer part-time positions. And I know that becomes hard because you're thinking as a provider, I need my hygienist here, 8 to 5 or this, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But they might only be able to work 3 or 4 hours on a particular day. But those that have all the experience, and we're a little flexible on that, it helps. And then including our team in our mission and in our onboarding, in our meetings, instead of this is the way it's always been, it's time to revamp this, right? So I'm taking the generation that, especially if you've been with me for 12 months to 16 months, it's time we revisit these sort of things and how can we improve them? How can we automate? How can we simplify? And so if we get the team that's existing involved, then they feel, oh, I'm included in this. I'm not, and it does, the terminology has been out there, my dictator, I'm being dictated to by the doctor owner. Not really. It's just you've been so accustomed to running the business in this particular way. Are we able to adapt? So they give some examples. Anyone having success in their particular practice or business of retaining, especially the younger generation.
Well, I have a comment to make about that.
Thank
Um,
you.
to me, it seems like that, again, the Gen Z, they seem like a very skeptical generation. And I think there are a lot of reasons for it to be that way. And I think part of the problem is that they see a disconnect between merit and reward. And my son talks about that a lot. Like, look, she's a OnlyFans, she's making millions a year, and I'm working to try to build a software, package and blah blah. And it's interesting to think about that because I think linking they're doing the right things with a definite reward, I think helps because I think they sort of can't even see themselves getting to the same places that previous generations have been. And they often criticize, Gen Xers like myself, for things like, well, yeah, sure, in your mind, there's a end goal that's achievable, but in their generation they don't see that as clearly. And I think there are all sorts of weird things. The other day I was reading an article and it was saying that um uh and this is sort of a politically sensitive topic, so I'll just briefly touch upon it, but they were talking about DEI and hiring practices of the largest companies, and what they were saying is that 96%, I think it was, or maybe it was 94% of the jobs that were filled that year, which was like 300,000 jobs, 96% of them went to DEI candidates. So if you don't fit into that category, and I mean, I was always very confused by this because my son keeps talking about how there are no jobs, there are no, like, what are you talking about? But apparently that things like that are playing a significant role in the background. And for a lot of these kids who are incredibly capable, smart kids, they're not seeing a future, and it's a little shocking. But I think helping them to see that they've got somewhere they can go and something they can achieve, and that there is a future, I think would really help a lot.
Jackie, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. And to the point, and Kevin, you might can lead us into this. It is that mentorship, the cross-generational mentorship, the tech training. I mean, we on this call need probably more than tech training, but we can hire the person that's got all of that skill. And then of course there is that learning culture. It's changed. And Jackie, you kind of alluded to that. There's some of that different pieces there. So Kevin, if you would walk us through some of those pieces.
Yeah, sure thing. I think I think we've been building on this during this call. I think there's a balance. I think Lori put it best in how we often look at trying to scale businesses often is standardization. But then when you bring that to a specific generation, maybe they're lacking maybe creativity, changes to maybe their work day or what their goals might be for the quarter or for the business and as a whole. So you're often balancing how do we kind of get them to stay on task and standardize their process so it's simplified, but then also they want some sense of freedom, some sense of creativity. So I think it's playing into the balance of within mentorship we can personalize the experience. So even if it is using AI to speed up the learning curve for them, so they feel like we're addressing some of their concerns when they're starting a new job, but also how they're developing in that career as well. I think mentorship is probably going to be one of the ways that we often try to personalize it a bit. Tech specifically, my background's mostly in startups and technology. Often we look at it as an opportunity to provide value not just for customers, but I think Grant at HPA mentioned it earlier. How can we share that it's an opportunity for our internal team to get better as well? What we've found and what we've seen in different companies is actually breaking up their workday into segments so they can see how am I dedicating my time. Often we find that if there is, whether it's a weekly or bi-weekly check-in, and that's their mentorship call, they often find, okay, I'm getting mentorship at least a couple times a month. And then same thing with tech training or even learning culture. Often in dentistry, CE credits and continuing education is such a big topic. We try to bring those internally as well, having a designated time within their schedule, whether it is 30 minutes a week or an hour a week to learning and continued learning is an essential part so that they feel that they're getting the value in all these different streams as well.
Kevin, I appreciate that. I do want to open up and see what's going on there. But Kevin, you made mention is it's supporting all generations, right? But no matter what, everyone on this call, we know that tech, if you would, AI and the like, it's changing. We have to upskill. There's no doubt about it. But also internally, we may lose some of our longevity, our teams that have been with us forever, because they're scared of it, right? It's the unknown. So it's that reverse mentoring that we find that is helping. So those that truly understand it can adapt to tech very quickly, having confidence to help others. And so then I'll give you an example of a success in a dental practice is when it's the vision over the next 3 years, this is where we'd like to get. So we're going to utilize all of this AI that's coming out, and specifically in dental. We might actually take these courses that you actually pay for and learn more about AI, and we want to achieve these maybe once a quarter. This is what it is. So everybody is aligned to seeing the roadmap. But then after that roadmap is mapped out, is internally that, and I'm going to call it the reverse mentoring. Who can take the pieces to really be our mentor and teach all? And most has to be taught up, meaning it needs to be taught to the owner, and no one needs to know everything. But when we're thinking of who is the dental owner, the practice owner, the dentist, typically a generation that this is going to be a challenge to, or someone on the team that could be a challenge. So it's that reverse mentoring that we've seen the success there as long as it's been mapped out. And then, there's potential for interns to come in, externs, interns, whatever the dentist in that world might call, but really onboarding for really the software. So we could bring in some interns or externs that are not just in the dental assistant category, but could help us with the software and educate us on the software as well, which is there. And Kevin, you addressed this. It's kind of that monthly skill sharing, skill sharing. It's really important to understand because we can learn from each other the skills. Evan and I, Lori and I, Kevin and I, we do this all the time. We're learning constantly. And in the world we're playing in, AI has to become our friend very quickly. And Grant indicated, we've got to digitalize as much as we possibly can because paper no longer gets it. The only success we have is it takes a coach to execute what you've just read, right? Or what you're visualizing. Now, how do you play it, right? That's where we become a staple, if you would. Who would like to share with us what might be going on in your practice, really looking at AI here, cultural changes, if you would, from upskill situations?
I have other comments, Lynn, if nobody is commenting.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
This conversation makes me think of the Fourth Turning. I don't know if you guys have read that book, but the essence of the book is it's generational, history repeats itself, and it's hard times make tough people make good times make weak people make hard times. So I think we're looking at a generation that came from easy and they're making tough times, right? Because they don't want to do what's hard to keep it good. One thing I did want to mention to Jackie, one thing I do for all my team, and it's interesting to see what people do with it, is I uncap their salaries. That means they have an opportunity to earn a commission every day. They could earn $10 a day per person on every Google review they get. There's so many different things to gamify their job. How many people execute on that? That there's going to be maybe 1 out of 10, but they're uncapped. So I take that off the table because you can always earn more. Talk about flexibility. There is one thing I do, then this may be helpful to others. I reimburse gas as just a straight expense for some employees that drive further than others instead of giving a $1 per hour raise. I think that's good. The other thing that I ask this question, I think it's important every time, every person, is can the person you're hiring do the job? Can they do it long term? And are they a good cultural fit? And if you can't say yes to all three, you didn't hire the right person, and that's a management issue, in my opinion. In the morning huddle, we cover 21 points, and there are see, hear, do, or show us exercises where people have to model out the behaviors that we're asking them to do. And people get really comfortable talking about solving problems because it's collective input, which I think is helpful for Gen Z because they've not really found their voice in some ways. It's all keyboard. And then one exercise, I know this sounds corny, is we do an eye contact exercise where I make my team stare in each other's eyes for 30 seconds without blinking. And you're going to laugh. I know people have done this in marriage counseling. Yeah, isn't that funny? 3 minutes, you can technically fall in love with someone, so never go that far. But 30 seconds teaches these people to learn to be comfortable with eye contact. Literally, this generation has never been taught that or taught to speak face to face. COVID completely collapsed so much of our social skills with all of us. And you'd find it's so funny how much unity it creates. So, for whatever that's worth.
Lori,
Those
I
are my
appreciate it. And again, I would just make comment. We are running a little long on this, but the dialogue has been great. I'll give us some takeaways, and this is just if it fits, take the note. But Lori just made mention culture. Culture has to be defined by the team, not the executives, not the owner doctor, not the family setting beside or behind who built the practice, 10, 15, 20 years ago, because today's culture, it's different, right? So it's time, if you haven't in a very long time, revisit the ultimate culture that's there. So it is a team build. The stay and exit interviews are very important. And as Black Ops has been heavily involved in the more exits, why are people leaving? And we discover it's because those stay interviews are not happening. And that's where you just have those check-ins, right? It's just, am I frequently checking in with the individual, and do they visually, can they transparently see they've been successful or where they need that recognition, that coaching. So that is essential to retention. And then again, I'll come back. Culture shaping is what we really are in today for most of our practices. It's ongoing. The culture will evolve as technology is evolving, people are evolving, generations are coming in. If we're starting to look down at the alpha generation, we're going to see a larger population of that, but it's going to be very gamified. I don't even really know how to communicate with you because I'm more reserved, right? So it's going to be, to Lori's point, now we're going back, eye contact, shaking a hand, having those conversations. So it changes things. And what are those expectations? So I'd leave that. Evan, I want to pitch back to you as you kind of pull us together, kind of close out our roundtable today, leave some scenarios and how people can get in contact with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for coming. So, Kevin, if you just want to kind of like maybe talk about how they can get in contact and next steps if they need any help with any of the challenges that we've discussed.
Yeah, I think we just want to encourage more dialogue. So we have a booking link for a Calendly. It's just jumping on for 30 minutes to discuss any of the topics we've discussed in our previous roundtables, including this one. So anything revolving around leadership, culture, best practices, technology, whether it's you're already vetting different strategies and technology to implement into your business or into your practice, or you are vetting or implementing new, we could be a part of either of those conversations, but offer any of our best practices and advice we're willing to do within a quick call. And that would just be a next step, and just let us know how we can best support you as well.
Thanks, Kevin. And so I've just shared the link in the Zoom chat as well, and it's also clickable on the presentation. Okay,
Evan,
well,
thank you. I'll leave everyone with these steps here, kind of a recap here. Retention's about, we need to hold our team, and it's not about resistance or anything of that nature. There are the generational needs. They're evolving. They're evolving rather quickly as we're looking at those needs. So, leadership and systems needs to stay on top of that. So engaging the team and being aware of it. And then help's available. As Kevin may mention, Black Ops is out here, is available, and many of you on this call could provide some advice and support as well, because we're all navigating through this. And so with that, I greatly appreciate everyone joining the call. I'd ask that, again, reach out to us. We do record these, and so Evan's so great to put these in YouTube short formats and long formats. So, the audience that is there to watch, they can go into YouTube and see these as well. So with that, Evan, you want to kind of bring us to a close and let everybody get to their day?
absolutely. Thanks so much for coming to another great roundtable session. And thanks to Lori, Kevin, especially for giving so much of your experience. And yeah, have a great day, guys. I know we went over 5 minutes, but really appreciate you all coming here today. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.